What if the secret to men's health and vitality was hidden in something they've been doing all along, but never fully understood? That's the question Dr. Emily Harper, a urologist with over a decade of experience, found herself wrestling with one cold autumn morning in her bustling clinic in Denver. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead as she reviewed the latest patient file, a 68-year-old man named George, who had just been referred for severe erectile dysfunction and unexplained fatigue. The problem was more than medical, it seemed deeply personal, tied to habits, fears, and silence. George wasn't the first man to walk through Dr. Harper's doors with issues like this, and he wouldn't be the last. But something about his case, his hesitancy, his almost apologetic tone when discussing private matters, struck a chord with her. It was a familiar pattern. Men reaching a certain age, suddenly grappling with physical changes that seemed to strip away more than just their strength, but their very identity. What if we've been missing a vital piece all along? Emily thought, glancing up from the file. She'd spent years treating symptoms, prescribing pills, recommending therapy, advising lifestyle changes, but what if the real breakthrough lay somewhere less conventional, even taboo? Before she could explore the idea further, her phone buzzed with a message from an old colleague. It was a link to a recent study titled, "The Impact of Masturbation on Male Health in Later Life, an Overlooked Factor." Emily felt a spark of curiosity ignite. Could something so common, yet so rarely discussed openly, hold the key to improving men's health and happiness? This story you're about to hear isn't just medical jargon or clinical statistics, it's about real people. People like George, who find themselves navigating the challenging waters of aging and health with courage and sometimes confusion. And it's about Dr. Emily Harper, who dared to challenge convention, uncovering 5 essential secrets about masturbation that old men wish they had known decades earlier. If you're watching or reading this, maybe you know someone like George, or perhaps you see yourself in his story. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? In America, millions of men face age-related health issues that impact their quality of life, from declining libido and energy to more serious problems like prostate health and cardiovascular risks. Yet, few openly discuss these topics, especially when it comes to sexual health and masturbation, which many still view with stigma or discomfort. Emily had noticed a recurring theme. Her older patients often treated masturbation as a taboo, a guilty secret or something shameful rather than a natural and beneficial practice. Many suffered in silence, fearing judgment from doctors, partners, or even themselves. When George arrived at the clinic, he confided quietly that he hadn't touched himself in years. "It just seemed wrong at my age," he admitted. "I thought it was something only young men did." Emily's heart ached for him. She knew that the cultural silence around masturbation for older men was doing them no favors. Research showed that sexual activity, including masturbation, could help improve mood, reduce stress, and promote prostate health. Yet the message was lost in a sea of myths and misconceptions. It wasn't just about biology or health. It was deeply emotional and psychological. George had been married for 40 years, but after his wife passed away, he felt adrift. The loneliness was overwhelming, and the thought of intimacy, whether with himself or others, brought a strange mixture of longing and guilt. Many of Emily's patients shared similar stories. Men who had once been vibrant, confident, and physically active now doubted their worth. Some avoided dating altogether, convinced that age meant the end of pleasure and desire. Emily knew that addressing the physical symptoms without acknowledging the emotional ones would never be enough. Men needed not only medical treatment but also education, compassion, and hope. That day in the clinic, Emily made a promise to herself: she would explore this hidden dimension of men's health more deeply. She began collecting stories, talking to experts, and researching the science behind masturbation and aging. It wasn't easy. She faced skepticism from colleagues who dismissed her interest as trivial or inappropriate. But Emily saw the pain in her patients' eyes, the desperation for answers that were never offered. She remembered an interview she once saw with Elon Musk, the tech visionary who often spoke about breaking barriers and challenging norms. If Musk could revolutionize space travel and electric cars by asking bold questions, why couldn't medicine also innovate by challenging old taboos? Emily's journey had just begun. Whether you're a man approaching middle age, a caregiver, or simply someone curious about health, this story has something vital to offer. It's about reclaiming control, understanding your body, and finding joy, even in unexpected places. As we move forward, I'll share the 5 masturbation secrets that older men wish they had known sooner, revealed through Emily's experiences, patient stories, and expert insights. So again, don't forget to hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me your own story or what you hope to learn. This isn't just Emily's journey, it could be yours too. Before we move on, I want to leave you with a question to ponder. What if something you've avoided or been ashamed of all your life turned out to be the key to your health and happiness? Would you be willing to face it? Dr. Emily Harper wasn't always the confident, pioneering urologist you just met. Behind her calm demeanor and keen medical mind was a story marked by struggle, resilience, and a passion fueled by personal experience. Emily's journey began long before she ever set foot in a hospital or clinic. Growing up in a small town in Colorado, she was the youngest of 3 siblings, raised by parents who valued hard work and compassion. Her father was a family physician, a man respected by everyone in the community, and from him, Emily inherited her love for medicine and helping others. But life wasn't always kind. When Emily was just 16, her mother passed away unexpectedly from a rare illness. The loss shook the family to its core. Suddenly, Emily was thrust into a role beyond her years, balancing school, family responsibilities, and her own grief. It was a dark time, Emily recalls. But it's also when I realized how fragile life is, and how much even a single person can impact others. Her father became both her rock and inspiration. Despite his grief, he doubled down on his work as a doctor, teaching Emily the importance of dedication and empathy. Yet, the long hours meant she often felt like she was navigating her pain alone. Driven by her experiences, Emily excelled academically and won a scholarship to a prestigious university where she majored in biology and pre-med. It was during those years she encountered the first hints of the challenges she'd face later in her career. In her sophomore year, she volunteered at a local clinic where she met patients grappling with health issues that were rarely discussed openly, particularly older men struggling with sexual health. Emily was struck by how many of these patients suffered in silence, embarrassed or ashamed to ask questions, or unaware that their problems could be treated or managed. The stigma around male sexuality, especially as men aged, was pervasive. Most of my peers were focused on pediatrics or oncology, Emily says. But I felt drawn to urology. I wanted to help people with these hidden struggles that affected so much of their lives. Her clinical rotations confirmed that path. She observed that male patients, especially older ones, often avoided discussing masturbation or other aspects of sexual health, even when it clearly impacted their well-being. Despite her passion, Emily faced skepticism from some mentors and colleagues who viewed topics like masturbation as trivial or inappropriate for serious medical study, especially when linked to aging men. There's a lot of taboo around this, she explains. I was told to focus on the hard science, the surgeries, the cancers, the obvious problems. But what about the everyday habits that can transform health? At times, she felt isolated, pushing against a culture of silence. But Emily was determined to follow the evidence and the voices of her patients. Emily's personal life also informed her approach. She had been in a long-term relationship with her college sweetheart, Mark, a software engineer who supported her dreams but struggled with his own health issues as he aged. Mark's experience with anxiety and erectile dysfunction, common yet rarely discussed, opened Emily's eyes to the emotional toll these conditions take on relationships and self-esteem. Together, they navigated the complexities of intimacy, communication, and acceptance, deepening Emily's resolve to bring these conversations into the open. A pivotal moment came during Emily's residency, when she treated a patient named Harold, and 72-year-old widower who reminded her of George. Harold had avoided intimacy for years, believing his sexual vitality was gone forever. Through patient conversations, Emily learned Harold had stopped masturbating decades earlier, convinced it was shameful after his wife's death. Over months, Emily introduced gentle guidance, encouraging Harold to reconnect with his body on his own terms. Slowly, his mood lifted, his energy returned, and he even began dating again. "I saw firsthand how much shame and misinformation had held him back," Emily recalls. "It wasn't just about physical health, it was about reclaiming life." That experience crystallized Emily's mission: to break the silence, dispel myths, and empower men to understand and embrace their sexuality, no matter their age. She began devoting her research and practice to uncovering the benefits and best practices of masturbation for men's health, particularly for those navigating the challenges of aging. Her work attracted attention, some supportive, some critical, but Emily stood firm. She believed that open dialogue, backed by science and compassion, could change lives. Emily's bond with her father remained strong throughout this journey. Though he was traditional in many ways, he respected her courage and supported her unconventional path. Their late-night talks about medicine, ethics, and patient care helped shape her approach, always putting the patient's dignity first. "My dad taught me that healing isn't just about medicine, it's about understanding the whole person," Emily says. "That's what guides me every day." Emily Harper's story is more than a biography, it's the foundation of everything that's about to unfold. Her personal struggles, relationships, and professional challenges all feed into a deeper understanding of why men's sexual health, and masturbation, in particular, is such an overlooked but crucial part of aging well. As you follow her journey, you'll see how knowledge, courage, and compassion intersect to transform lives. Before we move on to the next chapter, here's a thought to leave you with: everyone faces hurdles, be it health, loss, or fear. What or who keeps you going when things get tough? Drop a comment and share your own source of strength. Maybe your story will inspire someone else on their path. Emily Harper never expected her passion for men's sexual health, and specifically masturbation, to be met with such resistance. But as she pushed deeper into her research and advocacy, the challenges mounted quickly, threatening not only her career but also her confidence. It all started quietly. She presented preliminary findings about the positive effects of masturbation on prostate health and mental well-being at a national urology conference. Instead of applause or curiosity, she faced skeptical stares and polite nods that barely hid the discomfort in the room. One senior colleague whispered to another, "She's chasing myths, not medicine." Emily felt the sting but refused to back down. In the months that followed, Emily's work was scrutinized. Journal editors rejected her papers, saying the topic was too sensitive or lacking rigorous evidence. Some fellow doctors outright avoided collaborating with her, fearing association with what they labeled as a taboo subject. "It was like hitting a wall," Emily recalls. "But I kept thinking about patients like George and Harold. If not me, then who would speak for them?" Her perseverance led her to find allies. Young researchers and open-minded physicians who believed that men's sexual health deserved honest discussion and that masturbation was an important, understudied part of it. Together, they pushed forward, combining clinical research with patient stories that brought data to life. But the conflict wasn't only professional. Emily's commitment began to strain her personal life. Mark, her longtime partner, grew uneasy with the attention her work was receiving. "Sometimes I wonder if this obsession is taking over," he said one night. "Are you sure this is worth risking everything for?" Emily understood his fears but felt caught between her mission and her relationship. Her parents, too, expressed concern. "Why stir up controversy?" her father asked. "You're talented, but this path, it's risky." At times, Emily doubted herself. Was she too stubborn? Was the stigma too powerful to overcome? Meanwhile, her patients continued to face their own battles. George's condition worsened as he resisted confronting his fears and misconceptions. One afternoon, after a particularly discouraging appointment, George asked, "Doc, do you really think something like masturbation could help me? At my age?" Emily nodded gently. "It's not a cure-all, but it's a part of a healthy routine that many men find beneficial, even in their 70s or 80s. George hesitated. "I don't know if I can do it. I feel guilty." It was moments like these that reminded Emily why her work mattered. Emily's story was full of highs and lows. A small breakthrough publication here. An encouraging patient email there. But every step forward seemed to bring new obstacles. She learned to navigate the highs of hope and the lows of doubt, constantly searching for balance. At one point, she almost gave up, overwhelmed by rejection letters and cold shoulders. But then, a heartfelt thank you note from Harold, whose life had transformed, reignited her fire. Emily realized her battle was part of a larger societal issue, the cultural discomfort with aging, sexuality, and masturbation. She began collaborating with psychologists, sociologists, and sex educators, building a multidisciplinary team to tackle the stigma from all angles. Together, they worked on public awareness campaigns, podcasts, and workshops designed to empower men and normalize conversations about their health. If you've ever felt alone in your struggles, or held back by shame, Emily's story offers a powerful reminder: change is possible, but it often comes with resistance. Understanding that conflict is part of growth can help you face your own challenges with courage and resilience. As we close this chapter, think about a time when you faced resistance for standing up for what you believed in. How did you respond? What kept you going? Share your story or thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters. The day Emily Harper decided to dive into the uncharted territory of men's sexual health was a turning point. It wasn't just about treating symptoms anymore, it was about uncovering truths that had been buried under years of stigma and silence. And that meant exploring something most doctors avoided: masturbation. Her journey began with a simple but powerful question: what if the key to revitalizing aging men's health had been hiding in plain sight, in something they already did but never fully understood? That question led Emily down a path full of unexpected discoveries, patient stories, and scientific revelations. One of the earliest and most exciting findings Emily uncovered was the link between regular ejaculation, including masturbation, and reduced risk of prostate issues. Decades of research suggested that frequent ejaculation helped flush out toxins and reduce inflammation in the prostate gland, potentially lowering the risk of prostate cancer. Emily remembered the look on George's face when she explained this. "So, you're saying, it's not just okay, it's healthy?" "Yes," Emily said gently. "And it's natural at any age." This fact alone was revolutionary for many men, who had long been told to just accept their problems as part of aging. Emily's research and patient feedback revealed something equally powerful: masturbation wasn't just about physical health. It had a profound impact on mood and stress levels. The release of endorphins and dopamine during masturbation could help reduce anxiety, improve sleep, and lift spirits, benefits especially important for older men dealing with loneliness or depression. Harold was a perfect example. As he reintroduced masturbation into his routine, his outlook brightened, and his energy returned. "Sometimes, it's the little things that make the biggest difference," Emily noted. Contrary to the myths that masturbation diminishes sexual desire or performance, Emily found that it often helped men maintain and even improve their sexual function. Regular masturbation kept blood flowing, muscles active, and nerves engaged, helping men stay in tune with their bodies. Mark, Emily's partner, experienced this firsthand. As they communicated more openly, they discovered new ways to enjoy intimacy, reducing pressure and enhancing connection. Many older men lost touch with their bodies over time, especially after health issues or life changes. Emily saw masturbation as a way for men to reconnect, build confidence, and understand what felt good. This self-awareness translated into improved relationships and emotional well-being. Emily encouraged her patients to explore at their own pace, emphasizing that there was no right or wrong way. Perhaps the most unexpected discovery was how masturbation, for some men, became more than physical. It was a moment of mindfulness, self-acceptance, and even spiritual connection. Emily met men who described their private moments as a form of meditation, a chance to be present and at peace with themselves. This dimension transformed masturbation from a taboo act to an empowering ritual. Armed with these 5 secrets, Emily felt a renewed sense of purpose. Her work was no longer just about clinical outcomes, it was about reshaping how society viewed aging, sexuality, and self-care. She began developing workshops, writing articles, and creating videos to share these truths far and wide. Her message was clear: it's never too late to embrace your body and reclaim your health. Emily's clinic became a sanctuary where men could speak openly and without judgment. She painted vivid pictures of her patients' experiences, the fears, the breakthroughs, the small but profound moments of change. From George's hesitant first step to Harold's joyful rediscovery of intimacy, each story brought the 5 secrets to life. Emily believed that through storytelling, she could break down walls faster than through charts and graphs alone. If you've ever felt confused or ashamed about your sexual health or aging body, Emily's discoveries offer hope. Understanding these 5 secrets could be the key to unlocking greater vitality, happiness, and connection in your life. Before we dive deeper, consider this: which of these 5 secrets resonates most with you? What might it mean to embrace this secret in your own life? Drop a comment or share your thoughts. This is your journey too. The journey that Dr. Emily Harper had embarked on was no longer just about uncovering medical facts or sharing secrets. It was becoming a deeply personal, emotional battleground for her patients, and for herself. As the walls of silence and shame began to crack, some truths emerged that hit harder than anyone expected. George sat nervously in Emily's office, his hands clenched together. The man who had once avoided intimacy, ashamed of his body and desires, was now facing one of the most difficult moments of his life. Emily had encouraged him to be honest, not just with her, but with himself. "George, what is holding you back the most?" she asked gently. George looked down. "I'm scared. Scared that I'm too old, that my body is failing me, that I'm just broken." It was a raw, vulnerable confession that few had heard before. Emily reached out, her voice steady. "You're not broken, George. Your body is still capable of joy, connection, and healing. It's normal to feel fear, but don't let it define you." George's eyes welled up. "I want to believe that. But it's hard." Just as George began to trust the process, a devastating diagnosis arrived. A biopsy revealed early-stage prostate cancer. The news shook everyone to their core. Emily explained the medical facts clearly but compassionately. Treatment options were available, but the emotional weight was enormous. For George, it felt like the final blow, a confirmation of his worst fears about aging and loss. Yet Emily reminded him of something crucial. "This diagnosis doesn't define you. Your courage to face these challenges already makes you strong." At the same time, Harold was experiencing his own emotional roller coaster. After rediscovering intimacy and joy through masturbation, he had started dating again. But a sudden health scare, a minor heart attack, forced him to slow down and reevaluate his life. Harold's frustration was palpable. "I was finally feeling alive again, and now this?" Emily worked closely with him, focusing not only on recovery but on maintaining the healthy habits they had built. "You're more than your diagnosis," she told him. "Your spirit is what keeps you moving forward." Meanwhile, Emily was not immune to the emotional toll. The resistance from the medical community, the personal sacrifices, and witnessing her patients' struggles wore on her. One night, overwhelmed and exhausted, she found herself questioning everything. Was her mission worth the pain? Could she really change hearts and minds? Her breakthrough came in an unexpected way, a phone call from Mark. "I'm proud of you," he said softly. "I know it's been hard, but what you're doing matters." That support reignited Emily's resolve, reminding her that even in darkness, hope could shine through. The emotional climax wasn't just about hardship, it was also about the moments of hope and transformation that followed. George, despite his diagnosis, began a new routine of self-care and masturbation, finding unexpected relief from anxiety and a renewed sense of control. Harold's recovery was slow but steady, bolstered by Emily's unwavering support and the healthy habits they had cultivated. Emily herself emerged stronger, more determined than ever. Sometimes, the hardest truths bring the greatest opportunities for growth. Facing fears and vulnerabilities is never easy, but it opens the door to healing and empowerment. Emily's story, and those of her patients, remind us that even in the darkest moments, there is hope. Think about a time when you faced a difficult truth that changed your perspective. How did it shape your journey? Share your thoughts or experiences below. Your story could be the encouragement someone else needs. After months of emotional highs and lows, Dr. Emily Harper found herself standing at a new crossroads. Her work was finally starting to break through the barriers of stigma and skepticism. Yet, the cost was far from negligible, both professionally and personally. It began with an unexpected email. A leading medical journal, known for its rigorous standards, had accepted Emily's comprehensive study on masturbation's benefits for aging men. The news was a breath of fresh air after countless rejections. When the article published, it sparked an intense conversation within the medical community. Some were curious, others cautious, but all were talking. Emily felt a rush of validation. Her years of research, advocacy, and pushing boundaries were starting to pay off. Soon, Emily was invited to speak on podcasts, health panels, and even a televised health show. She became a voice for an often ignored topic, breaking taboos with science and empathy. She remembers one interview vividly, when the host asked, "Dr. Harper, why do you think so many older men keep these masturbation secrets to themselves?" Emily responded, "Because for too long, we've treated aging and sexuality like separate things. But they're deeply connected. Knowing and caring for your body at every age is a form of self-love and health." But with recognition came pressure. Emily's days were packed with interviews, writing, and patient care. The late nights and constant travel left little time for Mark, who struggled with her absence. One evening, after returning home from a conference, Emily found Mark sitting quietly on the couch. "We need to talk," he said. Emily's heart sank. Mark expressed feelings of loneliness and uncertainty, fearing that her passion for work was pulling them apart. Emily realized she had to find balance, to keep fighting for her mission without losing what grounded her. Emily began setting clearer boundaries: no work emails after 8 p.m., dedicated weekends for Mark, and scheduling moments of rest. It wasn't easy. The temptation to dive back into research or respond to urgent messages was strong. But slowly, she rediscovered the joy of simple moments: cooking dinner together, watching a movie, or just talking without distractions. This balance gave her renewed energy and perspective. Meanwhile, the stories of patients like George and Harold continued to inspire Emily. George was managing his prostate cancer with resilience, crediting masturbation and self-care for easing his anxiety and helping maintain intimacy with his wife. Harold was back to dating and enjoying life with a newfound confidence and healthier body. Emily realized that the personal breakthroughs of her patients were as important as any scientific discovery. With growing recognition, Emily's mission expanded beyond the clinic. She launched an online platform dedicated to men's sexual health, including educational videos, support forums, and live Q&A sessions. She wanted to create a community where men of all ages could feel safe, heard, and empowered. The platform quickly gained traction, and Emily received messages from across the country, and even internationally. Emily's journey shows that success is not just about breakthroughs or fame, it's about perseverance, balance, and connection. If you're passionate about something but struggling to keep your personal life intact, remember that setting boundaries and nurturing relationships is essential. What's one boundary you need to set in your own life to create balance? How do you prioritize what matters most? Share your thoughts below. Your insights can inspire others. Emily Harper's work was no longer a quiet pursuit in the background of medical research. Her message about masturbation and men's health was rippling far beyond her clinic walls. Reaching thousands, sparking conversations, and challenging societal taboos. But with greater impact came unexpected challenges. Through her online platform and media appearances, Emily found herself at the center of a growing community of men eager to learn and share their experiences. Messages poured in daily, stories of shame turned to pride, confusion transformed into clarity. One man wrote, "For the first time, I don't feel alone in what I'm going through. Thank you, Dr. Harper." These moments fueled Emily's passion and reminded her why she started this journey. However, not everyone was ready for this kind of openness. Some critics accused Emily of encouraging immorality or irresponsibility, labeling her work as controversial and inappropriate. Social media trolls questioned her credibility, and some conservative groups launched campaigns against her platform. These attacks were painful but not unexpected. Emily learned to focus on the voices of those who mattered most, her patients and supporters. As the spotlight intensified, so did the pressure. Emily's schedule was relentless. She juggled clinical work, research, public speaking, and managing her growing online community. The emotional weight of carrying her patients' stories, especially those like George's cancer battle, sometimes left her drained. One late night, she confided in Mark, "I want to help everyone, but I feel like I'm running out of energy." Mark reminded her, "You're human, Emily. It's okay to rest." Then came the call that shook Emily deeply. Harold, once thriving and hopeful, had relapsed into depression after a difficult breakup. His health deteriorated rapidly. Emily dropped everything to be there for him, guiding him through the crisis with compassion and medical care. It was a stark reminder that healing isn't linear, and setbacks can hit anyone, no matter how strong. Emily shared Harold's story, with his permission, on her platform, breaking the silence around mental health struggles among older men. The response was overwhelming. Countless men reached out, grateful to see their struggles acknowledged. Emily realized that vulnerability was a powerful connector, a way to build trust and encourage honesty. Emily's story shows that progress often comes with resistance and challenges. If you're facing backlash or setbacks on your own journey, remember that you're not alone. Sometimes, the most difficult moments pave the way for deeper connection and growth. Have you ever faced criticism or setbacks when trying to make a positive change? How did you handle it? Share your experience in the comments. Your courage could inspire someone else. The journey that Dr. Emily Harper had embarked on was evolving. She realized that the 5 masturbation secrets were only part of the story. To truly help her patients, she needed to look beyond just physical health and embrace a more holistic approach, one that included mental, emotional, and social well-being. Emily had always known her patients were more than symptoms and diagnoses. But recent challenges, like Harold's relapse and George's cancer battle, sharpened her perspective. She began integrating counseling, mindfulness techniques, and lifestyle coaching into her practice. "It's not just about the body," she explained to her team. "We have to heal the mind and spirit too." One of the first additions was mindfulness meditation, a practice that Emily herself had turned to during stressful moments. She taught her patients how to be present with their bodies, emotions, and thoughts, especially during moments of intimacy or self-exploration. Many men reported feeling calmer, more connected, and less anxious. Emily also partnered with nutritionists and physical therapists to offer comprehensive care. Proper diet and regular exercise were shown to improve blood flow, hormone balance, and mood, all crucial for sexual health. George began a gentle yoga routine, which he credited with reducing pain and improving his overall energy. Loneliness was a common thread among many of Emily's patients, contributing to depression and anxiety. To combat this, Emily facilitated support groups where men could share experiences and encourage each other. Harold found these meetings life-saving, a place where he could be honest without judgment. Emily's online platform evolved too. She added guided meditations, virtual support sessions, and interactive health trackers to help men stay engaged. This digital approach allowed her to reach men who might never walk into a clinic. Mark's support took on new meaning as he helped Emily manage the expanding workload. He began co-hosting webinars and moderating forums, strengthening their partnership both personally and professionally. Together, they were creating a movement. Healing is never one-dimensional. Taking care of your body, mind, and soul creates a foundation for lasting well-being. If you're facing challenges, consider how integrating holistic practices might support your journey. What's one new habit or practice you'd like to try for your overall health? How might it help you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Dr. Emily Harper's holistic approach was just the beginning. As her work gained traction, so did advancements in research and technology, opening exciting new frontiers in men's sexual health. The convergence of science and empathy was reshaping what it meant to age with vitality. Recent studies had started to unravel the complex interplay between hormones, nerve function, and psychological well-being in men. Emily kept close tabs on emerging research, eager to bring the latest findings to her patients. One breakthrough particularly caught her attention: the role of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize and heal, in sexual function. Neuroplasticity explained why, even after injury or illness, some men could regain sexual function through retraining the brain and body. Emily incorporated specialized exercises and cognitive therapies that targeted neural pathways related to arousal and sensation. Her patients began experiencing improvements not just physically, but mentally, boosting confidence and reducing performance anxiety. Meanwhile, new devices and treatments were emerging. Low-intensity shockwave therapy, for example, was showing promise in stimulating blood flow and tissue regeneration in the penis. Other innovations included wearable tech that tracked physiological responses, providing personalized feedback and encouragement. Emily introduced these options carefully, ensuring patients understood the benefits and limitations. The future was also about personalization. Genetic testing and hormone profiling allowed Emily to tailor treatments more precisely. For George, whose cancer treatment had disrupted hormone levels, this approach helped restore balance without compromising his recovery. Emily forged partnerships with biotech companies and research institutions, becoming part of a larger network working to revolutionize men's health. She spoke at conferences, sharing her insights and learning from pioneers pushing the boundaries. Emily's patients continued to inspire her. Mark, once hesitant and withdrawn, was now exploring new intimacy with Emily using techniques that combined mindfulness and technology. Harold, too, found renewed hope as emerging therapies helped manage his health challenges. Science is advancing rapidly, offering new tools and hope for those facing sexual health challenges. Staying informed and open to innovation can make a significant difference. What excites you most about emerging health technologies? How open are you to trying new treatments? Let us know in the comments below. While new science and technology offered promising physical improvements, Emily Harper understood that true healing went far deeper. The emotional journeys of her patients, marked by courage, vulnerability, and transformation, were equally vital. George's prostate cancer diagnosis had initially filled him with dread and self-doubt. But over time, through therapy, mindfulness, and Emily's guidance, he began to reclaim his sense of self. In one session, George opened up about his fears of losing intimacy with his wife. "I'm scared she won't see me the same," he confessed. Emily reassured him, "Love isn't just physical. Your bond can grow stronger through honesty and patience." George started to communicate openly with his wife, sharing his struggles and hopes. Their relationship deepened in unexpected ways. Harold's journey was filled with ups and downs. After a painful breakup and health setbacks, he struggled with feelings of isolation and shame. Emily encouraged him to engage with the support groups and community online. "There's power in connection," she said. Harold found strength in sharing his story, and in listening to others. Slowly, he rediscovered joy, not just in intimacy, but in friendship and self-acceptance. For Emily, witnessing these emotional transformations was both rewarding and challenging. The depth of pain and hope she encountered sometimes weighed heavily on her. She confided in Mark, "I feel like I carry their stories with me." Mark reminded her, "Your empathy is a gift, but you also deserve care. Remember to protect your own heart." Emily emphasized the importance of vulnerability, not only for her patients but for herself. By sharing her own struggles with stress and balance, she built deeper trust. This openness encouraged patients to confront their own fears and insecurities. Emily's clinic and online forums became sanctuaries where men could express emotions often suppressed by societal expectations. The relief of being heard and accepted sparked powerful healing. Healing is a journey of the heart as much as the body. Facing emotions with honesty and compassion creates space for transformation. Have you experienced emotional growth through vulnerability? What helped you take that step? Share your story or thoughts in the comments below. As Dr. Emily Harper's career soared, the demands on her time and energy became relentless. The delicate balance between professional ambition and personal fulfillment was proving to be one of her greatest challenges yet. The invitations to speak at conferences, interviews, and research projects kept pouring in. Emily was becoming a recognized authority on men's sexual health, a title she never imagined for herself. But the cost was evident. Late nights in the hospital were followed by early morning conference calls. Weekends once reserved for rest now filled with webinars and online community engagement. Mark noticed the change. Their conversations grew shorter, moments together more rushed. One evening, Mark sat Emily down. "I'm proud of what you're doing, but I miss us." The long talks, the quiet dinners. Emily nodded, torn between her passion for her work and her love for Mark. "I know," she said softly. "I want to be present, but sometimes it feels like everything depends on me." Determined to reclaim balance, Emily and Mark created new boundaries. Work hours were strictly defined. Technology-free zones were established in their home. Emily also started delegating more, trusting her team to handle day-to-day tasks. Emily rediscovered self-care practices, yoga, journaling, and simple walks outside. These moments were vital breaths of calm amid the storm. She reminded herself that caring for her own well-being was essential to helping others effectively. During a routine check-in, Emily's mentor, Dr. Lawson, gave her a piece of advice that stuck: "You can't pour from an empty cup." This simple truth encouraged Emily to prioritize rest without guilt. With renewed energy and clarity, Emily's care deepened. Her patients noticed the difference. Harold remarked during a session, "You seem lighter. Maybe that's why we all feel safer here." Balancing career and personal life is a challenge many face. Setting boundaries and prioritizing self-care isn't selfish, it's necessary. What strategies help you maintain balance in your life? How do you recharge when things get overwhelming? Share your tips below. No journey is without its storms. For Dr. Emily Harper, just as she was learning to balance her rising career with her personal life, an unexpected setback challenged everything she had worked so hard to build. It started with a subtle fatigue that Emily initially brushed off. But over weeks, the tiredness deepened, accompanied by unexplained pain. After multiple tests, the news arrived: Emily was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, a chronic condition that could impact her energy and mobility. The diagnosis was a shock. For someone whose life revolved around healing others, this sudden vulnerability was difficult to accept. Emily grappled with fear and frustration. How could she continue to care for her patients when her own body was betraying her? Mark stood by her side, offering support, but the weight of uncertainty was heavy. "I'm scared I won't be able to keep up," Emily admitted during one tearful night. Mark squeezed her hand, "We'll face this together." Faced with her health crisis, Emily had to reassess her priorities. She slowed down, taking a medical leave from her practice for the first time in years. The enforced rest was difficult but necessary. Through this personal health battle, Emily discovered new depths of empathy for her patients. She realized that vulnerability wasn't a weakness but a bridge to connection and healing. Emily's online community rallied around her with messages of encouragement and shared stories of resilience. Her patient support reminded her that she was never truly alone. As Emily began to regain strength, she planned a gradual return to work, one that honored her new limitations and needs. She vowed to model self-care and balance for her patients, not just preach it. Setbacks can shake even the strongest among us. But they also offer an opportunity to grow, connect, and rebuild with greater wisdom. Have you faced unexpected challenges that changed your outlook? How did you cope and find new strength? Share your experience in the comments below. After months of rest and reflection, Dr. Emily Harper was ready to return, not just to her work, but to her life with renewed purpose and resilience. Her journey through illness had reshaped her perspective, deepening her commitment to the men she served and to her own well-being. Emily walked into the clinic on a crisp morning, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nerves. She was greeted warmly by her team, many of whom had supported her throughout her absence. Her first patient back was Harold, who smiled when he saw her. "It's good to have you back, Doc," he said. Emily smiled back, feeling a surge of gratitude. Emily's experience with her autoimmune condition had transformed how she approached patient care. She was more patient, more attuned to the emotional and physical struggles her patients faced. Her treatment plans became more holistic, incorporating lessons from her own healing journey. One of Emily's priorities was to promote self-care and balance, not just for patients but for healthcare providers as well. She began organizing workshops focused on preventing burnout and fostering resilience. Mark continued to be a steadfast partner, helping Emily navigate the demands of her work while nurturing their relationship. Their bond grew stronger through shared vulnerability and mutual support. Emily's mission expanded beyond individual care. She started collaborating with organizations to raise awareness about men's sexual health, mental health, and wellness on a broader scale. Her voice became a beacon for those often overlooked. George, Harold, and many others were thriving, thanks to Emily's comprehensive approach. Their progress fueled her passion and reminded her why she never gave up. Resilience is not about avoiding challenges but facing them head-on and emerging stronger. Your setbacks can be the soil where new growth begins. What challenges have strengthened your resolve? How do you turn setbacks into comebacks? Share your insights in the comments below. Dr. Emily Harper's return to her practice marked a turning point not only for her but for the field of men's sexual health as a whole. Amid the daily grind of patient care and research, she stumbled upon a discovery that had the potential to rewrite the narrative. It happened during a routine review of clinical data. Emily noticed a pattern emerging among her patients who combined mindfulness practices with a specific frequency of self-pleasure exercises. Their symptoms, ranging from erectile dysfunction to anxiety about sexual performance, improved more significantly than with standard treatment alone. Intrigued, Emily dug deeper. She collaborated with neuroscientists to understand the neurological underpinnings of this pattern. Their studies suggested that consistent, mindful masturbation could enhance neuroplasticity in the areas of the brain responsible for sexual response and emotional regulation. This wasn't just about physical health. It was about rewiring the brain's approach to intimacy and pleasure. Emily and her team developed a structured protocol combining mindful masturbation with guided meditation and breathing exercises. They launched a pilot program with selected patients. The initial feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Patients reported increased sensitivity, better mood regulation, and a stronger sense of connection with their own bodies. George described it as, like discovering a new part of myself. Emily knew this approach would challenge long-held stigmas and misconceptions. Some colleagues were skeptical, questioning the validity of incorporating such practices into mainstream medicine. But Emily remained steadfast. She began presenting her findings at conferences and through her online platform, inviting open dialogue and collaboration. The conversation was just beginning. Sometimes, breakthroughs come from looking at old practices with new eyes. Embracing both science and mindfulness can open doors to healing that were once closed. Have you experienced healing through unexpected methods? How open are you to integrating mind and body practices? Share your thoughts below. Dr. Emily Harper's groundbreaking discovery was more than a new treatment protocol, it was a catalyst for a shift in how men's sexual health was viewed and addressed within the medical community. As word spread, ripples of change began to form, meeting both excitement and resistance. Emily's first presentations to professional groups were met with mixed reactions. Some specialists dismissed the idea that mindful masturbation could have neurological benefits, seeing it as outside the realm of serious medicine. One urologist challenged her directly at a conference, "How can you expect this to be taken seriously when it involves practices many consider taboo?" But others were intrigued by the data and the patient testimonials. Dr. Ramirez, a neurologist specializing in neuroplasticity, expressed cautious optimism. "The brain's capacity to rewire itself is well documented," she said. "If mindfulness paired with self-pleasure enhances this, it's worth further study." Recognizing the importance of allies, Emily reached out to researchers, therapists, and advocates who supported a holistic approach. Together, they formed a coalition dedicated to advancing this new paradigm. They organized workshops, published articles, and began designing large-scale clinical trials to validate the protocol. Despite progress, stigma remained a significant barrier. Men often hesitated to discuss masturbation openly, even with their doctors. Emily launched a campaign aimed at normalizing conversations about sexuality and self-care. Videos, podcasts, and social media content emphasized that masturbation was a natural, healthy part of life. Her mantra, "Knowledge and acceptance pave the path to healing." As the campaign gained momentum, media outlets took notice. Emily was invited to appear on talk shows and health podcasts. During one televised interview, she addressed common misconceptions. Masturbation isn't just about pleasure, it can be a powerful tool for mental and physical health. Her candidness resonated with viewers, sparking widespread discussion. At the heart of this movement were the men whose lives had been transformed. Harold, once isolated and hopeless, now shared his story publicly to inspire others. George became an advocate for mindfulness and sexual health education. Emily's clinic became a hub for empowerment, where men learned to take charge of their well-being. Not everyone welcomed the change. Traditionalists argued that focusing on masturbation detracted from addressing real medical issues. Some insurers hesitated to cover treatments involving behavioral protocols. Emily navigated these challenges with persistence, gathering more evidence and patient outcomes to build her case. Emily understood that medical progress was tied to cultural shifts. She collaborated with sociologists and educators to incorporate sexual health education into schools and community programs. The goal was to foster a generation unafraid to talk openly and seek help. Amid the professional whirlwind, Emily reflected on her own growth. Her journey, from doctor to patient to advocate, had taught her resilience, empathy, and the power of innovation. She was no longer just treating symptoms, she was shaping a new narrative. Progress often meets resistance, but perseverance and truth prevail. Embracing new ideas, even controversial ones, can lead to breakthroughs that improve lives. Have you experienced a time when a new idea challenged old beliefs? How did you respond? What role do you think openness plays in personal and societal growth? Share your thoughts below. As Dr. Emily Harper's research gained traction, it did more than shift perspectives, it planted the seeds of inspiration in the minds of a new generation of doctors, students, and health advocates. Her once taboo topic had become the foundation for a broader revolution in how men's health, intimacy, and mental well-being were understood. Emily began receiving emails from young medical students across the country. Your work helped me decide what kind of doctor I want to be. Thank you for showing us that empathy, innovation, and sexuality can coexist in medicine. Many of these students were women and men who felt that the traditional medical system had failed to address the whole human experience. Emily's work gave them permission to question the old ways, and to imagine something better. To meet the growing interest, Emily began teaching as a guest lecturer at medical schools. In her sessions, she didn't just present slides or cite studies, she told stories. Stories about George's emotional recovery, Harold's mental breakthrough, her own health scare, and how vulnerability transformed lives. She asked her students, what if we treated the person before we treated the problem? Students leaned in. They weren't just learning how to treat symptoms, they were learning how to heal. With Mark's encouragement, Emily founded the Harper Institute for Men's Integrated Health, a research and training center dedicated to sexual health, mental resilience, and mind-body medicine. The institute offered clinical training in her holistic protocols, research grants for studies on sexual well-being and neuroplasticity, public outreach programs promoting openness and destigmatization. Her goal was clear: normalize the conversation, train new leaders, and scale impact. One of the most promising young doctors to emerge from Emily's mentorship was Dr. Aidan Brooks, a charismatic, thoughtful urology resident who had read Emily's first journal article during his second year of med school. He flew across the country to attend her lecture and introduced himself afterward. Your research answered questions I didn't even know how to ask, he told her. I want to help bring this to communities that have never heard of it. Aidan's passion reminded Emily of her younger self, curious, fired up, and slightly underestimated. She offered him a research fellowship on the spot. With young minds like Aidan involved, the Harper Institute became a think tank of innovation. They launched pilot programs for veterans suffering from PTSD and sexual dysfunction, combining Emily's protocol with trauma-informed therapy and wearable tech. Another group studied the effects of her techniques on men recovering from opioid addiction. The results were early but promising. Men were reporting better sleep, lower anxiety, and, perhaps most surprisingly, a renewed sense of dignity. The broader culture began to shift, too. Podcasts, YouTube channels, and even documentary crews started covering the movement Emily helped ignite. What once would have been dismissed as fringe science was now being explored by mainstream media and academic journals alike. In one viral TED Talk, Aidan Brooks passionately shared, "Masturbation, when done with awareness and intention, is not indulgence. It is self-connection. It is healing." Millions watched. Conversations erupted. Myths were questioned. Of course, not everyone celebrated the shift. Emily continued to face backlash from conservative commentators and some traditional medical institutions. "She's promoting indulgence disguised as science," one critic wrote in a scathing op-ed. But Emily stayed grounded. "Progress always rattles comfort zones," she told her team. "Let them talk, we've got lives to change." As the institute grew, so did Mark's role. He led the digital education arm, helping bring video courses, interactive apps, and guided meditations to men across the globe. Their partnership, once built on quiet support, had evolved into a shared mission. Inspiration is contagious. When we dare to lead with curiosity and compassion, we open the door for others to follow, and to innovate further. You don't have to be a doctor to start a revolution. You just have to care enough to question what's broken and help rebuild something better. Has someone's courage ever inspired you to change course? What's one belief you've challenged that made your life better? We'd love to hear your story. Leave a comment below and join the conversation. Just when Dr. Emily Harper thought the movement was on an unstoppable rise, the storm hit. It came not from a critic on social media or an online troll, but from a powerful, well-respected institution that had long ruled the world of men's health. The American Board of Urology issued a formal letter questioning the scientific merit of Emily's protocols and temporarily suspended their accreditation of the Harper Institute's educational programs. Emily read the letter in her office. Her heart pounded. The language was technical, but the message was clear. Dr. Harper's methodologies, while novel, are considered unverified and in conflict with established urological practices. Until further review, the board advises caution in adopting these protocols in licensed medical facilities. The room fell silent as she finished reading. Mark, sitting across from her, broke the silence. This isn't about science. It's about fear. Fear of change. The letter made headlines. Some media outlets ran with dramatic angles. Doctor under fire for controversial masturbation protocol. Is mindful self-pleasure medicine or marketing? Sponsors began backing out of events. Speaking invitations were quietly rescinded. Even a few colleagues who had once applauded her now distanced themselves. Emily felt the walls closing in. But rather than panic, she took a breath. She had built this movement on truth and courage, and she wasn't about to abandon it now. Emily called an emergency team meeting. The room was tense. Some of her younger researchers looked pale. Aidan Brooks fidgeted with his pen. This isn't the first time innovation has met resistance, Emily began. What we're doing is grounded in science and healing. But it threatens a status quo that's been profitable and unquestioned for too long. She looked around the room. We fight this not by shouting louder, but by proving them wrong. With evidence, integrity, and unity. Her words lit a fire. Over the next 48 hours, the Harper Institute shifted into high gear. Aidan led a review compiling every patient case study with measurable outcomes. Mark organized a digital petition, signed by thousands of patients, doctors, and advocates worldwide. Emily reached out to Dr. Ramirez and other researchers to publish a meta-analysis in a respected peer-reviewed journal. They also launched a public statement. The future of medicine must be brave enough to evolve. We stand by our research, our patients, and the lived truths that have brought healing. George, Harold, and dozens of former patients stepped up. They recorded video testimonials sharing how Emily's protocols had transformed their lives, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. I'm not just a man again, Harold said in one clip. I'm a human being again. I was dying inside before Dr. Harper helped me reconnect with myself. George added, this isn't pseudoscience. It's personal. It's real. It saved my marriage. The videos went viral. Within weeks, the controversy sparked a broader conversation within the medical community. A series of public debates were scheduled, where Emily would appear alongside board-certified urologists and neuroscientists both for and against her approach. The first event was held at Stanford Medical School. Standing before a packed auditorium and a live-stream audience in the hundreds of thousands, Emily delivered a calm, passionate defense. Masturbation isn't just physical release, it's an entry point to emotional healing, neurochemical balance, and reconnection with self. Our data doesn't erase tradition, it enhances it. The future of urology must include the brain, the heart, and the human story. The room was electric. After the Stanford debate, something shifted. Younger doctors and students began speaking up in Emily's favor. More institutions opened their doors to her research. Even hesitant colleagues privately admitted their admiration. The American Board of Urology issued a follow-up letter. Further review of the Harper Protocol is in progress. We acknowledge the need for continued dialogue on integrative approaches to men's health. Through it all, Emily felt the emotional toll mounting. There were nights she lay awake, questioning whether she'd risked too much. Whether the stress would harm her health again. Whether she could keep going. But Mark was always there. One night, as they sat on the porch in silence, he reached for her hand. You're not fighting this alone. And you're not just defending an idea, you're changing lives. Change often invites resistance, not because it's wrong, but because it threatens comfort. If you're on a path no one else understands, don't back down. Prove the worth of your journey with action, compassion, and truth. Have you ever stood up for something you believed in, even when it cost you? What did you learn from that experience? Share your story in the comments below. You never know who you might inspire. The storm of professional opposition was nothing compared to the personal betrayal that would soon shake Emily to her core. Just when she thought she had surrounded herself with the right people, someone she trusted more than anyone would deliver a blow she hadn't seen coming. It started as an ordinary day at the Harper Institute. Emily was reviewing patient data with Aidan when her phone buzzed with an urgent message from Mark. It was short, almost cryptic. "Call me now." Her stomach dropped. Mark never used such a terse tone. She dialed him immediately. "Emily," Mark's voice was tight with frustration, "I just got off the phone with Dr. Ramirez. I need to warn you about something, it's big." "What happened?" "David. David is giving an exclusive interview to the New York Times. He's turned against you. He's questioning the integrity of the protocols we've been developing, and worse, he's accusing you of exaggerating the data. They're offering him a platform." David. The name hit her like a punch to the gut. David, her close collaborator and one of the leading voices at the Institute. He had been with her since the beginning, helping to shape the initial research that had started the revolution. He was the one who'd believed in her vision when no one else did. But now, it seemed, everything had changed. Why would he do this? Emily asked, her voice shaking. "David has been with me through everything. He helped design the protocols. He was part of the core team. Why would he go public with this?" "I don't know," Mark responded. "But we need to act fast." Emily's mind raced. She felt a cold rush of betrayal. This wasn't just about science. This was personal. She had trusted David implicitly, confided in him when things got difficult, when her health was at its lowest. He had been her rock. And now he was betraying everything they'd worked for. In the days that followed, Emily and Mark tried to get in touch with David, but he was evasive, unwilling to answer their calls or respond to messages. Emily felt the weight of the situation bearing down on her. If David's public accusations went unchecked, it could unravel everything she had fought for. Finally, Emily decided that the only way to resolve this was to confront him face to face. She arranged a meeting at the Harper Institute. Mark was there for support, but Emily knew that this conversation was something she needed to handle herself. After all, David had been a trusted partner. As she entered the conference room, her heart pounded. She saw David sitting across the table, a calm expression on his face. There was no remorse, no signs of apology, only the cold detachment of someone who had already made up his mind. "David," Emily said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I don't understand what's happening. Why are you doing this?" David didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked down at the papers in front of him, tapping a pen against the table. Finally, he met her gaze. "I've been thinking a lot about where this is headed," he said slowly. "I've been working in this field long enough to know when something's too good to be true. There's too much riding on this for it to be just an experiment." Emily's heart clenched. "We've helped people. We've changed lives. What's not real about that?" David leaned back in his chair, his eyes hardening. "It's not about helping people, Emily. It's about responsibility. If this blows up in our faces, if it doesn't hold up scientifically, who do you think is going to take the fall? Not you. You're a celebrity now. But me? I'll be the one answering questions, explaining why I risked my career on something unproven." Emily's breath caught in her throat. "You think I'm doing this for fame? For recognition?" Her voice wavered as she stood up. "I'm doing this because I believe in it. I've seen the results. I've seen the people change." "I'm not denying that, Emily," David replied, his voice softening for a moment. "But I can't ignore the risks. You're pushing a narrative that doesn't have enough evidence to support it. And I can't be part of that. Not anymore. The room was filled with silence. Emily felt her world collapsing. This wasn't just a professional disagreement, it was a personal betrayal. David wasn't just questioning her research, he was questioning her integrity. Are you really going to go through with this? Emily asked quietly. After everything we've done together? David didn't answer. He stood up, avoiding her gaze, and walked toward the door. I'm sorry, he muttered. I have to do what I believe is right. And with that, he was gone. The fallout was swift. David's interview with the New York Times went live the next morning, and it sent shockwaves through the medical community. He didn't just question the protocols, he painted Emily as a reckless maverick pushing untested methods for personal gain. The media picked up on it quickly. Some outlets called it a scandal, others labeled it the fall of a pioneer. Emily's phone blew up with messages, some in support, but many with doubts and questions. But as the storm of public scrutiny raged, Emily was resolute. She wasn't going to let one man's betrayal destroy everything they had built. Mark was unwavering in his support. He stood by Emily every step of the way. We'll weather this storm, he reassured her. We've faced challenges before, and we'll face this one too. The truth is on our side. Together, they crafted a response, a full rebuttal to David's claims, backed by evidence, patient testimonials, and research. They released a statement addressing the accusations, focusing on the scientific integrity of the protocols and the progress they had made. Betrayal is one of the hardest tests of trust. It can make you question everything you once believed. But even in the darkest moments, remember, your truth is yours, and no one can take that from you. Stand firm. Stand tall. Have you ever faced a betrayal from someone you trusted? How did you handle it? Share your experience in the comments. You never know who might need to hear your story. The fallout from David's betrayal reverberated through every corridor of the Harper Institute. And yet, Emily stood firm. Her rebuttal was honest, grounded in evidence, and bolstered by the voices of patients who had nothing to gain except their dignity. But the real battle, the one that could make or break everything, was still ahead. Emily had been summoned to appear before a closed-door review panel composed of senior members of the American Board of Urology, along with a few external ethics experts. This panel would determine whether her institute's educational programs and research protocols could continue under official recognition, or be shut down completely. The day before the hearing, Emily sat in her office surrounded by files, notes, case studies, and research data. Mark was beside her, his expression focused but calm. "You've got this," he said softly. "I know," she replied. But even she could feel the nerves clawing at her chest. "It's just. I've spent years building this. Not for me, but for them. For the men who never had anyone fight for their health beyond a prescription pad." Mark reached for her hand. "And now, you get to show them what fighting really looks like." Aidan entered the room, carrying a fresh binder of compiled data and signed testimonies. "Last batch," he said with a grin. Even Harold dropped by to add his signature. "He made me promise to tell you, don't let the white coat scare you, document." That made Emily smile. Just a little. The hearing was held in a cold, neutral conference center in Washington, D.C., far from the warm halls of the Harper Institute. Emily walked in wearing a dark blazer, her hair pulled back, her expression calm. Beside her were two colleagues, Dr. Sarah Lee, a neuroscientist who had co-authored a recent paper with her, and a legal representative from the Institute's advisory board. Across the table sat 7 board members. Middle-aged, mostly male, all seasoned veterans of institutional medicine. Some looked neutral, others skeptical. The chair of the panel, Dr. Benson, adjusted his glasses and began. "Dr. Harper, thank you for coming. You understand why you're here." "I do," Emily replied, meeting his eyes. I'm here to defend not just a protocol, but a vision for integrative men's health based on data, experience, and patient transformation. The first few hours were methodical. They questioned everything. The legitimacy of her sample sizes. The peer review status of her latest papers. Her use of the term neurosexual resilience in public platforms. Some questions were fair. Others were thinly veiled accusations. Isn't it irresponsible, one panelist asked, to promote masturbation as therapy without double-blind clinical trials? Emily didn't flinch. We're conducting those trials now, but the preliminary evidence, combined with neurological data and patient outcomes, supports continued study. We're not promoting indulgence, we're teaching structured mindfulness to address a very real health crisis. Another board member, Dr. Alcott, leaned in. But what about the public perception? This seems dangerously close to sensationalism. Emily paused before answering. With respect, sensationalism is what happens when we ignore these issues. Men are silently suffering from shame, dysfunction, and disconnection. Giving them language and tools is not sensational, it's overdue. Midway through the hearing, Emily played a 3-minute compilation video of testimonials. Not from influencers or celebrities, but from men of all ages, backgrounds, and walks of life. One by one, they spoke. Before this, I felt like less of a man. I hadn't felt connected to my body in over a decade. Dr. Harper's program didn't just help me, it gave me back my confidence, my marriage, my life. The room fell quiet. Even the most skeptical panelists seemed affected. For a moment, the bureaucracy gave way to something undeniably human. As the hearing came to a close, Emily stood for her final statement. She took a breath, looked around the room, and said, "I'm not asking you to abandon science. I'm asking you to expand it. For too long, sexual health has been reduced to mechanics, blood flow, hormones, pills. But men are not machines. They are complex, emotional, embodied beings. What we're offering is not a replacement for medicine, it's a return to healing." She paused. We can wait for perfect data, or we can act on the overwhelming need we already see. You have a choice today, to close the door, or open it just wide enough to let in something new. With that, she sat down. The panel thanked her and informed her that their decision would be delivered within 2 weeks. Back home, the atmosphere was tense. Every day felt like walking a tightrope, waiting for a verdict that would shape the future. Emily buried herself in her work, but the anxiety lingered. What if this was the end? What if she'd come this far just to watch it all fall apart? Mark tried to keep her grounded. No matter what they say, he told her, you've already changed the world. Nothing can take that away. Sometimes the biggest battles aren't fought in public, they're fought behind closed doors, where truth must stand on its own. When everything is on the line, stay rooted in your purpose. Let the work speak. Let the lives changed be your legacy. Have you ever had to defend something you deeply believed in, when others didn't understand or support you? How did you stay strong in the face of doubt? Share your story in the comments. Your courage could be the answer someone else needs. The envelope was thin. It sat on Emily Harper's desk like a loaded question. No return address, no digital copy. Just embossed paper with the insignia of the American Board of Urology. It had arrived by courier early that morning, hand-delivered. No calls, no emails. Just silence. Now it was time to open it. Emily ran her fingers over the seal, half expecting her hands to tremble. But they didn't. Maybe it was the months of battle hardening her, or maybe she was just too tired to be afraid. Mark stood across the room, watching quietly. He didn't say a word. Neither did Aidan, who had dropped in with fresh coffee, pretending it was a normal day. She broke the seal and unfolded the letter. After extensive review of submitted evidence, patient testimonials, and the oral hearing conducted on Date: the board has voted to reinstate the Harper Institute's educational accreditation and recognizes the protocol as a candidate for future clinical endorsement. A soft exhale left her lips. Aidan let out a cheer. Mark smiled, his eyes closing in quiet relief. Emily didn't celebrate immediately. She read the letter again, word for word. This wasn't just a not guilty ruling. It was acknowledgement. Legitimacy. A door finally creaked open, one that had long been sealed by outdated ideas and institutional pride. The reinstatement was more than just academic. It gave Emily's team the green light to resume partnerships with teaching hospitals, secure federal grants, and publish under the Institute's name with full recognition. But perhaps the most profound shift came in the form of perception. Suddenly, Emily wasn't the radical urologist, pushing an awkward message. She was a pioneer. "Looks like they finally caught up," Mark said, wrapping his arms around her shoulders. But before they could settle into the moment, an unexpected email popped into her inbox. Subject line: Proposal from NIH, urgent review requested. The email was from Dr. Shalini Vora, a senior coordinator at the National Institutes of Health. She had followed Emily's work for months and wanted to propose something bold. "We believe the Harper Protocol can serve as the foundation for a new multidisciplinary research initiative exploring sexual mindfulness, neural rehabilitation, and trauma-informed sexual therapy. We are prepared to fund a 5-year clinical study, contingent on your leadership and design collaboration." Emily read it 3 times. This was the kind of institutional backing that could launch her work into the future, not just as an experimental model, but as a core pillar of 21st-century men's health care. As thrilling as the offer was, it brought a quiet weight. The NIH's proposal meant expansion, oversight, bureaucracy, and potential compromise. If she accepted, she'd have to hand over partial control. Her institute would no longer be the rogue operation that moved quickly and boldly. It would become a system. Mark noticed her hesitation. "You've spent years protecting this like it was your child," he said. "But maybe now it's ready to grow into something more. With help." Aidan was more blunt: "You want to change the world, right? Then let's do it for real." Emily stared at the ceiling for a moment. Then she whispered, almost to herself, "It's not about control. It's about impact." 2 days later, Emily sat across from Dr. Vora at a modern conference room in Bethesda, Maryland. Dr. Vora, a sharp but warm woman in her 50s, wasted no time. "You've done something remarkable," she said. "We've seen it. And the world is watching. We want to help you scale it. But you'll need to play by some rules." Emily nodded. "Which ones?" "Peer review oversight, quarterly data submissions, and an ethics committee that can audit patient interactions." Emily smiled faintly. "And in return?" "National funding, academic publication, and integration into public health policy, if the results hold." A pause. A deep breath. "I'm in," Emily said. Dr. Vora extended her hand. "Welcome to the future." Back in Los Angeles, Emily called an emergency team meeting. This time, her news was different. Hopeful. Strategic. "We've been invited to lead a national initiative," she told the room. "This is the next chapter. We're not just healing people anymore, we're writing the playbook." Aidan was nearly speechless. "This is insane. Good insane." George and Harold, who had become unofficial patient advocates, were in the room too, clapping like proud uncles. "I never thought I'd be part of history," George said, grinning. "I just wanted to stop waking up sad." Within weeks, the NIH partnership was underway. New researchers arrived. The Harper Institute grew from a dozen core members to over 60 professionals. Doctors, neurologists, mental health experts, and tech innovators. They developed new protocols for young veterans, trauma survivors, and men with chronic anxiety. Emily even began working with couples, studying the impact of mindful self-pleasure on relationship satisfaction. The media came calling again, but this time, they came with respect. The New York Times ran a follow-up article titled, "From Taboo to Triumph, How One Urologist Reshaped Sexual Medicine." Success doesn't always come in the form of applause. Sometimes, it's a quiet letter on your desk. A hand reaching out. An offer that says, "We believe you now." You might be misunderstood at first. You might even lose people you trust. But if you stand for what matters, if you stay rooted in purpose, you'll arrive at a place where truth, healing, and opportunity finally align. Have you ever felt like giving up, only to be met with an opportunity that changed everything? What did it teach you about timing, patience, or resilience? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your journey might encourage someone else to keep going just a little longer. Emily sat at her desk, her fingers hovering above her keyboard. The digital clock on the wall read 3:15 a.m. She had been up all night, reviewing data, responding to emails, and preparing presentations for the upcoming Global Symposium on Men's Sexual Health. The NIH project was growing faster than she had ever anticipated. In just a few months, they had secured more partnerships with universities, clinics, and even tech companies that wanted to incorporate artificial intelligence into sexual health diagnostics. But as her professional world expanded, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that her personal life was slipping through her fingers. The first few years had been a whirlwind, fueled by passion and purpose. Every sacrifice seemed justified. The long hours, the missed birthdays, the quiet dinners alone, these were just the costs of making history. But now, as her influence reached new heights, she found herself questioning, how much was too much? Mark had been her anchor since the beginning. He was the one who held her when the world seemed ready to collapse, who had been there after every setback, every emotional collapse. But in the past few months, their relationship had frayed. Their conversations had become shorter, more surface level. He was still supportive, but there was an unspoken distance growing between them. "You're always working, Emily," he said one evening, his voice tinged with quiet frustration. "We don't talk anymore. I don't even know what's going on with you half the time. You used to tell me everything." She had tried to explain. "I'm building something that could change everything for men's health. I can't afford to slow down now." "I get that," he had replied, his voice softening. "But what about us? What about me? I feel like I'm invisible in your life." Emily had always prided herself on being a fierce multitasker. Juggling patients, research, and administrative duties had become second nature. But the weight of the NIH project was different. The stakes were higher. The spotlight was brighter. She was no longer just an academic, she was a global advocate for a new approach to men's health. Each new partnership, each fresh endorsement felt like a victory, but it also meant more time away from the people who mattered most. The constant pressure to be on was starting to wear her down. Late one night, after another round of endless meetings, she found herself staring out her office window, wondering if the price of success was too high. Aidan had become more than just a colleague, he was her closest confidant at the institute. He had seen the highs and lows of the project, the triumphs and the breakdowns. And he had a unique ability to cut through the noise and get to the heart of the issue. They were sitting together in the lounge area, sharing an unspoken understanding over coffee. Emily had her head in her hands, exhausted. "I don't know if I can keep doing this, Aidan," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've lost track of everything that made me happy. I'm so wrapped up in the project that I've pushed everyone away." Aidan looked at her, his eyes filled with empathy. "You're not the first to go through this," he said quietly. "The work you're doing is incredible, important, even revolutionary. But the problem is, you're human. And as much as you're trying to heal others, you can't neglect your own soul." Emily swallowed, her throat tight. "I don't know how to fix this. I feel like I'm losing everything." "Maybe you're not losing it," Aiden said, leaning forward. Maybe you just need to ask for help. From Mark. From the team. Let them in. They want to be there for you. Emily knew Aiden was right. She had been carrying the burden alone for so long that she had forgotten what it felt like to lean on others. She had been so determined to prove herself, to show the world she could make a difference, that she had forgotten how to ask for support. The following evening, she decided to talk to Mark. She couldn't keep running away from the truth. The distance between them had grown too wide, and she couldn't ignore it any longer. She found him in their apartment, sitting on the couch, staring at the TV, but not really watching it. Mark, she began, her voice trembling slightly. We need to talk. He turned to her, his face unreadable. About what? About everything, she replied. About us. About me. About this mission I'm on. I've been so caught up in everything that I've neglected the people who matter most to me. You matter. And I've been too selfish to see it. Mark's eyes softened, and for a moment, she thought he might say something comforting. But instead, he said, I love you, Emily. But love isn't enough if we're not present for each other. If we keep ignoring the problem, it's only going to grow. Tears welled in her eyes as she looked at him. I know. I know I've messed up. But I don't want to lose you. Mark sighed, standing up and walking toward her. He gently placed his hands on her shoulders. I don't want to lose us either. But you have to make a choice, Emily. You can't give everything to the world and nothing to the people who love you. You have to find balance. She nodded, the weight of his words sinking in. I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to try. For us. For me. For you. The next few days were a blur of meetings and emotions. Emily knew she couldn't just change everything overnight. But she could start small. She could carve out time for the people who mattered most, starting with Mark. That weekend, they decided to take a trip to a quiet beach town, far away from the noise of the institute and the pressure of her work. No emails. No phone calls. Just the two of them, reconnecting. As they walked along the shore, hand in hand, Emily realized something: the journey she was on was important. But so were the people who had supported her along the way. Her work was never meant to come at the cost of her humanity. It was possible to change the world, and still find time to live in it. Success isn't just about reaching the top. It's about finding balance along the way. As you climb the ladder, don't forget who you're climbing with, and don't forget what matters most. Work can be all-consuming, but love, connection, and self-care must be the foundation. You can't pour from an empty cup. Have you ever faced a moment where your mission or goals were taking too much from your personal life? How did you find balance? How did you reconnect with the people you love? Share your thoughts in the comments. You might help someone else find their way. The ocean breeze was soft that morning, cool against Emily's skin. She sat on the weather-worn balcony of their beachside rental, sipping black coffee, watching the waves slide across the shore like a metronome, steady, unbothered. Mark was still asleep inside, the soft sound of his breathing drifting through the open window. It was the first morning in months that Emily didn't wake up thinking about deadlines or data points. There was no urgent email, no press request, no NIH presentation looming in her mind. Just silence. Just time. Just them. And yet, somewhere under the calm, she felt the familiar tug, a small, insistent restlessness in her chest. By late morning, the peace was interrupted. Mark answered the door, and a courier handed him an envelope. No logo this time. Just a single embossed name on the flap. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Emily opened it slowly. Inside was a letter of interest. Not a formal grant, not a contract, just a proposition. But what it outlined was bigger than anything Emily had ever imagined. Dr. Harper, your work has caught our attention. We are seeking to invest in scalable health solutions that address unspoken epidemics across underserved male populations in developing regions. We believe the Harper Protocol can be adapted globally. We would like to fund an exploratory pilot initiative in Kenya, India, and Brazil, if you are willing to lead. She read it again. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, again. That night, she showed the letter to Mark. He read it carefully, then looked at her. "This is huge." "It is," she whispered. "But it also means you'll be gone again," he added, gently. "First for weeks, then probably months. If this takes off, it'll be years before you catch your breath." Emily looked down. "I know." They sat in silence for a long time. Then Mark said, "I'm proud of you. Always. But I need to ask, are we building a life together, or am I always going to be the person you come home to when there's a gap between missions?" The question hung in the air like fog. Emily didn't answer right away. Because the truth was, she didn't know. Back at the institute the next week, Emily was greeted by an unexpected visitor, Harold. He wasn't there for a checkup or a lecture. He brought lunch and that usual unfiltered wisdom of his. "You're glowing, Doc," he said, settling into her office. "What's the occasion?" Emily chuckled. "I might be taking this work global. Big Foundation wants to test the protocol in underserved countries." Harold gave a slow, knowing nod. "Funny thing about big steps," he said. "Sometimes they take you farther from what you love." She leaned back. "Is that your way of saying I should turn it down?" "No, ma'am," Harold replied. "Just saying, make sure the fire that drives you doesn't burn everything else down." He let the silence do its job. Then, in true Harold fashion, he added, "Also, you need to eat. Your cheekbones are starting to look like coat hangers." They laughed. But his words stayed with her. Later that day, Emily met with her core team to review the proposal. Aidan raised a key point. "We're not just talking cultural translation. We're talking infrastructure, local beliefs, social stigma, privacy concerns. What works in Santa Monica might not fly in rural Bihar." Dr. Sarah Lee chimed in. "And there's the question of consent, power dynamics, and long-term sustainability. Are we empowering these communities or imposing our framework on them?" Emily nodded slowly. These were the right questions. For years, she had worked to challenge traditional medicine's blind spots. But now, she stood at risk of replicating the same dynamic on a global scale, unless she built it right. "This can't be us exporting a solution," Emily finally said. "It has to be us learning how to co-create one." That evening, Emily and Mark had dinner on the balcony, the same place where peace had first returned. He poured them each a glass of wine, and for a while, they just watched the sky fade into lavender. "I've thought a lot about your question," she said, finally breaking the silence. "About what we're building." Mark looked at her, his eyes steady. "I want us," she said. "I really do. But I also can't ignore the work. It's more than ambition now. It's necessary." He reached across the table and took her hand. "I know. And I love that about you," he said. "I don't need you to give it up. I just need you to build something here too. With me. Something real. Something that doesn't have to wait for a window in your calendar." Tears welled in her eyes. "I will," she promised. "But I'll need your help to find the rhythm. I can't promise perfect balance, but I'll fight for it." He nodded. "Then we're in this together." That night, Emily wrote something she hadn't done in years, a letter to her future self. "Dear Emily. You are not just your work. You are not just the battles you've won, the research you've published, or the minds you've changed. You are also laughter by candlelight. Walks on sand. Late-night tears. Morning coffee. A hand held across time zones. Remember that healing doesn't just happen in clinics, it happens in hearts, too. Don't forget to live while you lead. Love. Me. Purpose is a beautiful thing, but it can become a prison if it consumes every part of you. You can change the world and still hold on to love, rest, and joy. You can be driven and still be whole. But it takes awareness. It takes boundaries. It takes heart. You don't have to give everything away to make a difference. Have you ever had to choose between your passion and your peace? How did you navigate it? What boundaries helped you stay balanced? Share in the comments. You never know whose heart you'll help lighten. Emily stood at the front of the conference room, staring at the wall of screens in front of her. A sea of faces, from different parts of the world, stared back at her: health professionals, government officials, NGO leaders, and representatives from the Gates Foundation. It was the moment she had worked for, the moment that would decide if the global pilot of her protocol would move forward. But something inside her felt different. She wasn't nervous. No, this was different. It was as if everything she had learned over the past year, the hard lessons, the late nights, the quiet moments with Mark, had prepared her for this exact moment. She had arrived at a crossroads in her life, a chance to go beyond her own ambitions and build something that would uplift people, not just in wealthier nations, but in the most vulnerable places on earth. "Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak," Emily began, her voice steady as she made eye contact with each person in the room. "I stand here today not as an expert who has all the answers, but as a collaborator. I am here to listen as much as I am here to teach." The room fell silent, a soft murmur of surprise rippling through the crowd. Emily could see the skeptical faces, the doubters, the people who had come to this meeting expecting another expert pushing a one-size-fits-all solution. She knew that was how the world worked, but she also knew it didn't have to be that way. She took a deep breath and continued. "For the past few years, I've worked to develop a protocol for men's sexual health. A protocol that I believe can change lives. But I've come to realize something more important along the way: it's not enough to impose our solutions on people. We need to empower local communities, to understand their unique needs, challenges, and values." She paused, letting the words sink in. The room was still silent, but she could see a few people nodding. "We need to listen, collaborate, and create a solution that's not just scalable, but sustainable. One that works because it's built from the ground up, in partnership with the communities it aims to serve." Aidan, who had joined her in this journey, sat quietly in the front row. He had always been a sounding board for her ideas, but now, even he could see that this was a different Emily, a more grounded, self-aware version. A version that no longer saw herself as the sole visionary but as one part of a larger puzzle. Emily continued, her voice growing more confident as she spoke. "We've seen this before in global health initiatives. People come in with the best of intentions, but they forget to involve the people who are actually living the problem. This has to be different. We need to meet people where they are, not where we want them to be." She looked at the faces in the room again. Some of them seemed convinced, others skeptical. But Emily knew that her journey wasn't just about convincing them, it was about demonstrating through action that this model could work. The pilot project she was proposing would focus on 3 countries, Kenya, India, and Brazil, regions where the health disparities for men were especially pronounced. The goal wasn't just to implement a one-size-fits-all protocol, it was to co-create a model that was adaptable to each country's unique cultural, social, and political landscape. But it was also about more than health. It was about breaking down stigma. It was about trust. And it was about showing the world that change could happen when you truly empower people to own their health. As she finished her presentation, Emily's phone buzzed. It was a message from Mark. "Remember what we talked about. Don't forget to live." Her heart skipped a beat. The words they had exchanged the night they left for the beach had stayed with her, guiding her through the hard decisions. It wasn't just about scaling the protocol. It wasn't just about fame or recognition. It was about building a life. A life that wasn't solely consumed by her mission, but one that was shared with people who loved her. For the first time in a long while, Emily felt truly grounded. After her presentation, the floor was opened for questions. The first hand raised came from a health official from India. "Dr. Harper," the man said, his voice formal, "you speak of collaboration, of partnership with local communities. But what does that look like in practice? How do you avoid the pitfalls of foreign aid that have, in the past, imposed Western ideals onto cultures without understanding their unique needs?" Emily nodded, recognizing the question's importance. "That's a valid concern," she responded. "This isn't about us coming in and telling people what they need. It's about us listening and co-developing a solution that fits within their context. Every community is different, and it's essential that we're respectful of their cultural values and traditions." A murmur of agreement spread through the room. She could tell the question had struck a chord. As part of this initiative, she continued, "we will be working closely with local healthcare providers, community leaders, and families to ensure that every step we take is in line with their values and needs. We'll also train local advocates to be the face of this project, ensuring that it's not just us coming in and leaving, but a sustainable model they can carry forward." The room seemed to relax a little. As the meeting wrapped up, Emily was approached by an unexpected visitor, Dr. Sarah Patel, a researcher from Brazil who had been quietly observing. "Dr. Harper," she said, her accent soft but clear. "You have a unique perspective. And I think you might be onto something. I've worked in global health for years, and I've never seen someone so willing to involve local communities at every step. But I have to ask, are you willing to take the risks? Because there will be resistance. And it might not be pretty." Emily met her gaze without hesitation. "I'm prepared for that. But I believe the risk is worth it. If we don't try something different, nothing will change." Dr. Patel smiled. "I think you might be right. I'll be in touch." As Emily walked out of the conference room, she felt a sense of relief. This wasn't just about a pilot project, it was about setting a new standard for global health. It was about shifting the paradigm from top-down to bottom-up, empowering communities to take charge of their own futures. But there was still much to do. She knew that. There would be long nights, difficult decisions, and countless challenges ahead. But for the first time in a long time, Emily felt ready. She had a clear vision, not just for the project, but for her life as well. She wasn't just leading this mission. She was living it, learning from it, growing with it. And that, she realized, was the most powerful thing of all. Sometimes, the hardest thing isn't finding the answer. It's being willing to ask the right questions and accept that the answers might not be what you expect. True leadership is about empowerment, not just taking charge, but lifting others up with you. If you're going to make a real difference, make sure you build with people, not for them. It's only through collaboration, humility, and trust that we can create something lasting. Have you ever been part of a project or initiative where collaboration made all the difference? How did you ensure that the voices of those you were helping were heard? What steps do you think are essential for creating a truly sustainable change? Share your thoughts in the comments. You never know who's waiting for your insight. It had been 3 months since the initial Global Health Conference. Emily and her team had begun the hard work of rolling out the pilot project in Kenya, India, and Brazil. The early days had been filled with logistical nightmares, negotiating contracts, securing local partnerships, adjusting cultural strategies. But it had also been filled with something far more valuable: connection. Connection to communities that had long been neglected. Connection to the hope that their voices, their needs, could shape the future of health. Connection to the realization that the true measure of success would not come from the protocols she developed but from the lives she and her team could touch. Emily sat at her desk, her laptop open, reviewing the latest reports. The numbers were promising. The pilot program was gaining traction in rural Kenya, where men had begun to open up about their sexual health in ways they hadn't before. In India, local healthcare workers had adapted the program to fit cultural nuances, gaining widespread acceptance. And in Brazil, community leaders were already advocating for the program, pushing it forward in a way that Emily hadn't expected. And yet, there was still so much to do. The email came in the middle of the night. Emily read it through twice, then again, as if she couldn't quite believe what she was seeing. It was from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Dear Dr. Harper. We have reviewed the initial results of the pilot program. We are encouraged by the progress and would like to explore expanding this project to additional regions, including Southeast Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. However, before proceeding, we require further evidence of long-term sustainability and scalability. Emily stared at the screen, her mind racing. Long-term sustainability and scalability. That was the crux of the problem, wasn't it? The question that had haunted her from the beginning. How could she ensure that the communities involved could sustain the program without external funding or support? Her thoughts immediately turned to Mark. They hadn't spoken about it much, but she knew he had been silently rooting for her success while also holding his own personal space. He understood her drive, but he also understood the cost of this work, what it had taken from her, and what it could continue to take if she didn't step back and reassess. She walked to the window and stared out at the skyline. The world had opened up in a way she hadn't anticipated. And now, she had to decide whether she was going to continue pushing forward at full speed, or whether she needed to take a step back and consider the broader picture. The next morning, Emily called Mark. "Hey," she said, her voice quiet, "I got an email from the Gates Foundation. They want to expand the program, more regions, more countries. But they want to see a clear plan for sustainability." Mark paused on the other end. "That's huge. But it's a big ask. You've been working so hard, Em. I know this means a lot to you. But what about your well-being? What about us?" Emily swallowed hard. "That's what I've been thinking about all night. I can't ignore this. But I also can't keep running at this pace. I need to find balance. Not just for the project's sake, but for mine, and for ours." Mark's voice softened. "I'm not asking you to choose between us, Em. I'm asking you to remember that we are a part of this. We have to figure out how to make this work together, not just as a project, but as a life." His words hung in the air. Emily felt her heart soften, a knot she hadn't even realized was there loosening in her chest. "I'll think about it," she whispered. "I'll think about how we can balance this. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. I want both." The next few days were filled with deep reflection. Emily spent hours going over the data, revisiting the goals of the program, and speaking with local partners about the challenges and successes they'd experienced so far. What had been clear was that, while the program was gaining traction, it wasn't yet sustainable on its own. In order for it to continue, it needed local leadership to take the reins, and that meant training and developing a pipeline of leaders in each region. But what Emily also realized was that she wasn't going to get there by working around the clock, always one email, one phone call, one meeting away from the next task. She needed to step back, not from the project itself, but from the constant pressure. She needed to build a team that could carry the torch when she wasn't there, and trust them to take the initiative. It was time to stop trying to be the hero, the savior. It was time to be the mentor, the guide. That afternoon, Emily called a meeting with Aidan, Dr. Sarah Lee, and a few key team members. She knew they were all invested in the project's success, but this was about more than just work. This was about the direction they wanted to take, not just for the project, but for their lives. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," Emily began. "We've made incredible progress, and I'm so proud of everything we've accomplished. But I also realize that we can't keep going like this, on adrenaline and urgency alone. We need a new approach to ensure the sustainability of the project, and we need to start creating leadership from within the communities we're serving. This isn't just about us being the ones to fix things, it's about building local capacity. Aiden looked at her, understanding immediately. You're right. It's time to bring in more people. It's time to make this their movement too. Dr. Lee nodded in agreement. We've been building the foundation. Now we need to empower others to build the walls, the roof, and the future. Emily smiled. She felt a weight lift off her shoulders. We need to take this step together, she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. This project is not just mine anymore. It belongs to all of us. Over the next several months, the program began to transform. Local leaders in Kenya, India, and Brazil took ownership of the work, adapting the protocols to their communities in ways that Emily had never anticipated. The program, which had initially been a top-down model, was now a true partnership, a collaboration between people from all walks of life, united by a common goal. To improve men's health globally. Emily found herself stepping back, allowing others to lead. Mark and she, too, found their rhythm. She traveled when necessary but no longer allowed the project to consume her every moment. She and Mark built a life that was both rich in purpose and grounded in the moments they shared together. Life is rarely a straight path. The projects we take on, the passions we pursue, often lead us into places of great tension, between ambition and family, between the call of duty and the need for rest. But the real power lies in our ability to adapt, to trust others, and to find the balance that allows us to pursue our dreams without losing what matters most. As you navigate your own journey, remember that you don't have to do it all alone. Trust the people around you. Empower them. And above all, never forget that your true legacy isn't just in what you accomplish, but in who you become along the way. Have you ever faced a moment where you had to step back and reassess your priorities? What did you learn about balance and leadership in the process? Share your thoughts in the comments. You never know whose story you might inspire.